네, NKTV 구독자 및 시청자 여러분 안녕하세요. 많은 구독자분들께 쾌적한 시청 환경을 제공해드리고자 드디어 배경을 바꿔봤습니다. 미국 대선 시리즈인 만큼 백악관으로 배경을 바꿔봤는데요. 모두 괜찮으신가요? 네, 오늘은 사실 주말을 맞아서 제가 휴식을 가지려던 참에 너무 중요하다 못해 어마어마한 정보를 담은 뉴스를 하나 발견하게 되어서 제가 돌아오게 되었습니다. 불과 몇 시간 전에 업로드된 뉴스맥스의 영상인데요. 트럼프 측 변호인인 시드니 파웰이 직접 전화 인터뷰로 출연한 내용이며 조지아주와 또 펜실베니아주의 자세한 근황에 대해서 업데이트한 내용이 담겨 있습니다. 그리고 그것을 넘어서 이번 미국 대선의 뿌리 깊은 배후와 우리가 알지 못하는 여러 가지 사건에 대한 뒷얘기들까지 이 영상에서 여러분들이 들으실 수 있으니 꼭 끝까지 시청 부탁드리겠습니다. 우선 며칠 전에 바이든을 최종 승자로 인증하려고 했던 조지아주에 대한 업데이트를 먼저 보시겠습니다.
Let me ask you about the state of Georgia. Obviously, yesterday, the governor there, he certified the election for Joe Biden. What do you see? Will Georgia switch?
Georgia's probably going to be the first state I'm going to blow up, and Mr. Kemp and the Secretary of State need to go with it because they're in on the Dominion scam with their last-minute purchase or award of a contract to Dominion of $100 million. The State Bureau of Investigation for Georgia ought to be looking into financial benefits received by Mr. Kemp and the Secretary of State's family about that time.
네, 이 짧은 영상에서 시드니 파웰은 조지아주에서는 쉽게 선거 인증을 할 수 없을 것이다. 왜냐면 조지아주의 주지사와 국무장관이 도미니언 시스템에게 뇌물을 받은 혐의를 가지고 있다라는 의미심장한 이야기를 했습니다. 그런데 아니나 다를까 오늘 조지아주 주지사는 주의 최종 선거 결과 인증에 대해서 이렇게 공식 성명을 발표를 했습니다. 한번 들어보실게요.
I join many in backing a hand recount and urging a thorough investigation into any voting irregularities. The Secretary of State oversaw a complete audit which revealed significant errors made in several counties, including Floyd, Fayette, Douglas, and Walton. It is important for Georgians to know that the vast majority of local election workers did their job well under unprecedented circumstances, and I thank them for their service. However, it's quite honestly hard to believe that during the audit, thousands of uncounted ballots were found weeks after a razor-thin outcome in a presidential election. This is simply unacceptable. I've heard directly from countless Georgians. They expect better and they deserve better. It's important to note that this audit only looked at ballots, not the signatures on the absentee applications or the signatures on the ballot envelopes. The Georgians I have heard from are extremely concerned about this, so I encourage Secretary Raffensperger to consider addressing these concerns. It seems simple enough to conduct a sample audit of signatures on the absentee ballot envelopes and compare those to the signatures on applications and on file at the Secretary of State's office. Earlier today, Secretary Raffensperger presented the certified results of the 2020 general election to my office. Following Judge Grimsberg's ruling yesterday, state law now requires the governor's office to formalize the certification, which paves the way for the Trump campaign to pursue other legal options in a separate recount if they choose. We demand complete explanations for all discrepancies identified so that our citizens will have complete confidence in our elections. In the runoff election, we cannot have lost memory cards or stacks of uncounted ballots. We must have full transparency in all monitoring and counting. Every legal vote must be counted, and the security of the ballot box must be protected. As governor, I have a solemn responsibility to follow the law, and that is what I will continue to do. We must all work together to ensure citizens have confidence in future elections in our state. Thank you, and God bless.
네, 이렇게 뇌물 혐의가 드러나려고 하자 조지아주의 주지사가 조금 더 트럼프 측의 호의적인 쪽으로 성명을 발표했다라는 느낌이 살짝 들긴 하는데요. 여러분들의 생각은 어떠신가요? 지금부터 여러분들이 지속해서 보실 뉴스맥스의 이 영상에서는 시드니 파웰이 조지아주의 주지사에 대해 더 깊은 이야기를 하고 있고 또 펜실베니아주나 미국의 부정선거의 중요한 뿌리들에 대해서 이야기를 하고 있습니다. 어마어마한 이야기들이 숨겨져 있으니까 꼭 끝까지 시청 부탁드리겠습니다.
How you doing? And it's good to talk to you as always. I want to start off with just the ruling. The biggest news out tonight is this Pennsylvania ruling from this federal district court judge. What do you make of that?
Yes, well, each of the district court judges has their own particular perspective on things, and I think that judge was appointed by President Obama. We really don't expect to win a lot of the district court cases, but ultimately the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court will have to get it right. We're very clear on the law and the facts on multiple issues, and we haven't even begun to present the big fraud case yet that I am still working on. And it's going to be a blockbuster.
I mean, it's interesting. Obviously, I mean, you guys had the news conference this week. There was a lot of compelling stuff in there. It sounded like you guys were making progress going down a road of investigation, but as I think anybody understands, when you're trying to lay out a case, it takes time to find out what you have. You had a bit of a rub with Tucker Carlson this week, who basically said you didn't have any evidence when they asked you to come on. What is the truth of the matter there? Because that made a lot of news.
Oh, yes. Well, he sent me some very abrasive and disrespectful emails or text messages, and I responded politely, offering him a different person as a witness who could explain it. I simply didn't have time to do it then, and I sent him a copy of one of the compelling affidavits that we have in the case. And apparently that wasn't sufficient for him. He was having a little bit of a tantrum. But I didn't see or hear what he said, and I haven't had time to listen to what he said after that. I'm just proceeding on my course of getting the case ready to prove in a court, which is where we prove cases of law, not in the media.
You know, what's the timeline you think before you can put out some of this evidence that can really, if you want to shut the media up, or they say that you guys have nothing, when will you have some of this stuff that's this hardcore evidence in paper and writing?
Well, frankly, the affidavits we've already introduced are hardcore evidence. They're firsthand testimony of witnesses who saw how and why the system was created and how it worked to accomplish the objective for Hugo Chavez. They're people who saw ballots being destroyed. We've got evidence from people who saw fake ballots being created. We've got all kinds of different evidence, and then we've got the statistical and mathematical evidence that's absolutely irrefutable. You can't just inject 86,000 Biden votes and expect anybody to believe those are real, and they're not. The Democrats literally added 35,000 votes to every Democratic candidate.
35 in any particular state, or you say 35,000 where?
We've got it definitely all over one state, and I would be willing to bet it happened everywhere.
And when you lay all this out, and you're going to do this in court, do you have what you think is irrefutable evidence that will make up the minds of millions of American people?
But frankly, with everything we've got, these should be criminal prosecutions at a significant level for fraud and conspiracy to defraud provable beyond a reasonable doubt.
Jimmy Powell, I want you to react to something that the Republican senator from Pennsylvania, Pat Toomey, just said in reaction to the district court judge's decision. Senator Toomey says that President Trump has now, quote, exhausted all plausible legal options to challenge the result of the presidential race in Pennsylvania. Is that true?
No, that's not true at all.
Can you explain why the senator's
begun
wrong?
to fight.
Can you explain that? Why is the senator wrong?
Well, he's wrong because Pennsylvania was one of the hotbeds of many varieties of fraud and criminal acts that the Department of Justice, frankly, should be in there prosecuting. And we're going to dump a whole lot of them into evidence in our fraud case that we're going to file in Pennsylvania.
Why do you think the Justice Department isn't being more aggressive in following up on what you see?
I think the Justice Department has known about this issue for a long time and turned a blind eye to it.
Why would Donald Trump's Justice Department not be interested in this?
Well, I wish Donald Trump had as much control over the Justice Department as people think he does. It's taken on a life of its own, and I don't think even Bill Barr has the control over the Justice Department that he would like to have, because there are so many lawyers in so many different places doing whatever it is they want to do and ignoring the standards and practices that historically created the Justice Department to seek justice and not convictions. So, I mean, we've been on this increasingly bad path for decades now, and it's done nothing but get worse because nobody's told the truth the truth, but Americans are now. They're livid about this, and they can see it. Everybody saw it election night. They saw votes being subtracted from President Trump and appearing on the Biden side of the scale. And that's exactly what this Dominion system was designed to do.
There have been warnings about this system. We were talking about it earlier, Sydney, that they saw evidence that votes could be switched using these systems. These are Democrats who ran for
Right.
president. What I don't understand is how does this get ignored? I mean, this is a nationwide, this is a democracy shocking scandal, if it is true.
It is.
And it's
It is.
it's so big I can't even wrap my head around it. I just wonder, how does this happen?
Well, that's exactly how it happens, because it's so big, nobody wants to wrap their head around it. Nobody wants to untie all the little knots that go into it.
Yeah.
But we have to if we're going to be a constitutional republic. This cannot go on. Our votes must be counted fair and true. Every legal vote is entitled to be counted, and every illegal vote nullifies the vote of an American citizen and our public will of we the people. It's absolutely counter to everything this country was founded on.
How big of a, if this happened, how big of a conspiracy, how many people would have had to have been in on something like this?
Oh gosh, probably thousands, including the people running the machines at each of the polling centers. And we also have evidence that there were any number of VPN lines open to the internet for foreign actors to be meddling in it.
Has anybody given you an explanation that as to why they had to turn the machines off? You talk about how the machines got turned off.
Yes,
and then there was a vote.
our witness from Venezuela, who saw it all created and how it worked, said that he knew as soon as the machines were turned off and those keys straight, it was because we the people, in voting for Trump in a landslide election, had essentially broken the algorithm that had been pre-programmed into the machine. So they had to stop counting in those states.
Let me ask you about the state of Georgia. Obviously, yesterday, the governor there, he certified the election for Joe Biden. It's about 12,000 votes. And what you see, will Georgia switch?
Georgia's probably going to be the first state I'm going to blow up, and Mr. Kemp and the Secretary of State need to go with it, because they're in on the Dominion scam with their last-minute purchase or award of a contract to Dominion of $100 million. The State Bureau of Investigation for Georgia ought to be looking into financial benefits received by Mr. Kemp and the Secretary of State's family about that time. And another benefit Dominion was created to award is what I would call election insurance. That's why Hugo Chavez had it created in the first place. But I also wonder where he got the technology, where it actually came from, because I think it's hammer and scorecard from the CIA.
Just to clarify, you're saying that Governor Kemp, who's been a longtime ally of the president, is directly involved because of financial benefit in the conspiracy to defeat the president in Georgia?
We have certainly been told that there is evidence of that, and would warrant an investigation if anybody were actually going to do an honest investigation.
Well, Jordan Seckel has said that there's going to be a filing soon in Georgia that would be explosive. Can you tell us anything? Can you make some news with us here tonight? Tell us anything new that you're going to present in that filing in Georgia.
Well, I can't say that yet, but hopefully this week we will get it ready to file.
Sydney,
and it will be biblical.
As we wrap this up, Sydney, I think everybody at home right now wants to see this. They want to see what you say you've seen. Is that going to be possible at any point? Are we going to be able to see some of these problems and some of these issues, the way these systems work and the way this Dominion works?
Yes, and there's actually evidence online now. I mean, we need to try to get our website up to date with the complaints that have already been filed. And they used them against their own candidates. The Democrats used them against Bernie Sanders in 2016. And somebody even told him what had been done to him when Hillary Clinton won that primary.
You're saying Dominion, the Smartmatic Dominion system was used in 2016 when Hillary beat Bernie in the primary?
Yes.
Wow. I don't think we have heard that yet. Incredible development right there. And you say he knows that. Bernie Sanders knows that.
Yes, the person who sent me the data told me that they informed Bernie Sanders of all their findings, and he didn't do anything except get enough money to buy another fabulous house.
is something else. I mean, it's mind blowing. Sydney, what you're
It
like,
is.
I can't even imagine. And I hope that you will join us again to talk about what you continue to find as you continue to investigate.
I will do that, and I'll try and get more stuff up online this week. We've got some
Or just
website
email it
issues,
to
and
us.
of course, people are trying to hack us and everything else. But who is really pulling the strings here and choosing the American officials pursuant to this system? Because it's not the people of the United States of America, and that's supposed to be who it is.
네, 오늘 영상 모두 재밌게 보셨나요? MKTV에서는 앞으로도 중요한 미국 대선 관련 뉴스에 대해서 지속적으로 업데이트해드릴 예정입니다. 이 심장 뛰는 선거가 이제는 결과도 결과지만 어떤 부정의 뿌리들을 계속해서 드러낼 수 있을지 궁금해지는데요. 여러분들의 생각은 어떠신가요? 앞으로도 MKTV를 통해 많이 소통해주시고 여러분들의 많은 시청과 또